We have a jam-packed transmission for you today. Bob Chapman with us for about 15 minutes. He's got family in Mexico and business associates, and he's been talking to them in detail. We've been having callers on from Mexico City. In fact, that's the only open lines we've got is people in Houston that may know this dead child, people in Brownsville, people in other areas that are flu affected. If you have an eyewitness report, 1-800-259-9231, 1-800-259-9231. Right now, Bob Chapman, who's got contacts in Mexico, and he can tell us what's going on in Mexico. Bob Chapman, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. Nice to be here again. And what we've been able to find out is that the President of Mexico, Mr. Calderon, and those around him, they decided to implement what amounts to is martial law in regard to the disease which has appeared in and around Mexico City, and but not too much in the outlying areas, although schools are being closed over most of the country. And people are being told that they shouldn't congregate, they shouldn't get together in groups.
Yeah, for those that, I mean, here's the specifics. All eateries, all restaurants that were ordered closed yesterday, all schools were ordered closed on Monday. Are people following those orders in Mexico?
The schools are. The restaurants are not. Restaurants are open all over the country. In the soccer games that they had over the weekend, some cities allowed people to attend that didn't have any experience with the disease. In big cities such as Monterrey and Guadalajara and Mexico City, the games were played with nobody in the stands. And meetings are being called off, et cetera, but the only thing that I understand is open are restaurants, and I'm sure some of them are closed. But they mentioned to me that they went out to eat last night. So, and people are running around with masks on, and masks aren't very effective unless you happen to cough and spittle comes out of your mouth. Other than that, they're not going to keep you from catching anything.
Well, the regular mask, I've talked to medical doctors, they say it helps a little bit if you're constantly changing them every few hours. Every time you go out and if you get around people, you've got to instantly take the mask off, put a new one on, because all they're good at is catching the spittle or mucus from a sneeze or a cough in the layer, but then as that dehydrates, then the virus goes ahead and gets pulled on in through by your respiration into your nose or mouth. Now, they do have the nano mask and goggles. They say that would reduce it by around 90%, but most people don't have those. You do see the health workers in the U.S. and others actually wearing those now. Basically, they're glorified gas masks, and some of them are a hybrid in between a regular mask and a gas mask or a respirator. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if you're not changing these every time you go in another store or around people, it's worthless. If you have a truckload of them and you're constantly, wearing them, it gives you some protection.
Well, I think, the discussion in Mexico among the people I talked to about this race-specific aspect. But my question is, if they have found cases in New Zealand and Israel and Scotland and other places, are they with Latinos in those areas?
Well, no, see, it's not killing them. And with most race specifics, as you know, Bob, it will make all Homo sapiens sapiens sick. It just won't kill them, or won't kill them as often. So, well,
as you said earlier, I hope to God this is not race specific, but there's no question this was made up in a laboratory by the U.S. government or someone in contact with them. And they're doing some experimenting for a whole bunch of reasons.
Well, they admit they've made these exact type of splices in thousands of major labs, not hundreds. There's thousands of these labs that are doing these type of experiments. Ron Paul said yesterday that he thinks it's hype. And when he was first elected to his first term, then he got kicked out and came back to Congress. I read his quotes yesterday, in fact, here's this quote. Ron Paul warns swine flu scare will be used as precedent for more big government. And Steve Watson did a story on Infowars.net on this, where he has the quote from Ron Paul, where he was saying in 76, this is nothing but fear-mongering and is going to be used to basically sell people on taking a dangerous vaccine. And it was as if he was prophetic. He predicted that with great precision. This story is up on Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com right now. Ron Paul warns of a swine flu scare. In fact, that was published in a book saying this was nothing but the government fear-mongering to sell vaccines and antiviral drugs. And Ron Paul said in a speech we just played earlier that it turned out his instincts were correct. So was Larry McDonald, who also predicted that at the time. Ron Paul
I knew Larry.
He described it, Ron Paul did in 76, as a shocking misuse of funds and an evil political maneuver, blatant advertising effort to panic the public into taking swine flu shots. And he said it will fail. And it did fail. Oh, yeah, you knew Larry McDonald. You've been an icon. He was the head of the John Birch Society, a Democratic congressman from Georgia. They clearly killed him on Flight 007, where his plane suddenly got canceled. He had to get on this other one. Tell folks about that.
Well, Hilaire Berrier, who's a good friend of myself, and Gary Allen in particular. In fact, I used to go and visit Hilaire when he was living in Monaco, and he was quite a character.
Larry McDonald?
Hilaire Berrier. But the reason I bring him up is he was a foreign policy advisor for Larry. And he told me the story and about what happened, which you just briefly explained. And Larry was a marked man. There was no question. He was coming out with too many things, and he had a lot of visibility. And
he was gaining momentum. He was gaining momentum and really leading the charge against the New World Order and going on TV and exposing everything.
That's correct. And he was a very charismatic speaker, a very handsome man, and very confident. And I had a long talk with him in, of all places, San Jose, Costa Rica, about a year before he got killed, and we talked about Hilaire, who he knew jointly. And but anybody who gets close to that sort of thing is marked. Somebody sent me and it's going to be in today's issue, which they're preparing right now, of the International Forecaster. And I didn't know about this, but I know Eustace Mullins quite well. In fact, I met him the same year I met Ed Griffith and Gary Allen and and all of those fellows. And he had wrote a book about these inoculations or taking shots.
Oh, yeah, Mullins. I've interviewed him about that. He wrote a book detailing it all.
That's right. And then it was sent to me this morning, the page, where the medical authorities admitted in the Boston Globe, which still exists, during the flu epidemic of 1918, that this had been an experiment with inoculations of men in the Navy who were in Boston who contracted this Spanish flu, as it was known.
Oh, yeah, it broke out on the Army and naval bases with the returning troops who had been inoculated. They were testing a bioweapon on them, and so did the 76. These people never stop. They never end.
Well, it's good for people to read that, and I got it in the Forecaster, and you should pick it up for InfoWars, too.
Yeah, as soon as it comes out, we'll have it posted.
It proves what evil people these are. And what really makes me mad about this is my grandfather died in that epidemic.
Oh, really?
And my father barely lived. And, of course, he lived on to produce me and ultimately got Parkinson's disease because of his survival and exposure to the Spanish flu.
Yeah, that's right. For those that don't know, it's a fact. This type of flu, the type that popped up in 76 and 1918, attacks the brain. So even if you survive it, it causes major degenerative diseases, not just in the brain, but all major nerve ganglias like the spine. Go ahead.
Well, being the offspring of my father, now you can understand why I am the way I am.
Did your dad know about this?
Joke. Pardon me?
Did your dad know about this?